If you were to pay closer attention to the substantial submissions made by our members of parliament in all the portfolio committees and standing committees of parliament, if you were to pay closer attention, you realize that there is a lot of work that is being done, and there's a lot of policy positions and propositions that we got from our representatives which get to be submitted in the Standing Committee on Finance, in the Defense Portfolio Committee, and a variety of other interventions as well as to just what should happen. And one other thing which South Africa should appreciate is that Mkhonto weSizwe is not the Democratic Alliance. Mkhonto weSizwe is not the Economic Freedom Fighters. Mkhonto weSizwe is its own party, does not play to the gallery for just attention of social media. We do our work and we know what really matters to the people. That is why even before the elections, a lot of people underrated or undermined the capacity that Mkhonto weSizwe has. A lot of people were shocked, including those who are leading other political parties, that Mkhonto weSizwe came to represent the true interest of our people. So it's so far so good, but there's a huge scope and space for improvement that can always be effected. Hence, this constant discussion and review of the work of our public representatives.
So is that the reason why the chief whip was perhaps removed yesterday?
No. So, you know, for an organization that is still at the formative stages, there will always be strategic and tactical considerations as to the composition of its leadership collective. And not because someone who is in a position is doing wrong or has done wrong. Sometimes there are strategic considerations that are made in terms of who should play which role. And the leadership collective came to a decision that we should assign Tsikani Colin Makubele as the chief whip in the National Assembly to then work with our party leader, Dr. Mandlakais Hlope, to guide the entire caucus towards a different and much more impactful direction. And that does not reflect on anything wrong that was done by the former chief whip, Mzwanele Manyi. And even before him, there was a Commander Sihle Ngubane. He played his part, and then there was consideration that let's have Mzwanele Manyi as a chief whip. Now there is assigning of Colin Makubele as the chief whip. It doesn't say that there is anything wrong that was done by either of those that were replaced.
I mean, I remember after the State of the Nation address, when the MKP had to respond, I think there was a lot of criticism in many quarters, and then it looked like it was an issue between the leader of the party in Parliament and the chief whip in terms of who contributed what. So did that have to do with perhaps this strategic arrangement?
No, it has got nothing to do with that. But also, one thing which as Secretary General, as a disciplined member of Mkhonto weSizwe, I will never do is to speak about internal discussions of Mkhonto weSizwe which are not due for public communication. So I don't know about the so-called differences about the State of Nation address. And as far as we're concerned, there are critical issues which, in his response, the Deputy President of Mkhonto weSizwe, the party leader, raised. There's an issue which he raised about the Richards Bay minerals. Like there's a company there that has been exploiting our natural resources, made commitments with the communities of Richards Bay, and is not honoring those commitments despite repeated commitments. And he raised that sharply. And he also raised sharply the counter-narrative against this illusion that President Zuma's term as head of state and president were 9 wasted years. He was able to systematically and systemically illustrate that President Zuma's contribution is objectively and qualitatively far much better than all other heads of state that ever got to occupy the position of president here in South Africa.
I think one of the things that the MK has been saying is to get black parties in the main to work together. But we are seeing a lot of perhaps disagreement from some of the people we think should be your natural key allies. For example, the economic freedom fighters, they've made it clear that, they don't see themselves working with you as the MK. Saying, I think your contribution basically as a party is quite insignificant.
Yeah, it's very difficult to understand the political and ideological position of the EFF currently, because the EFF is co-signatory of a charter which unites the Progressive Caucus in Parliament, which espouses common values and principles. But in some other articulations, I think there was a characterization of Mkhonto Wesizwe as enemy number one, and then I think their leader said in one of the platforms in the recent past that the MK is led by a stupid and the followers are stupid and everything else. But we have never got a substantial submission of what causes such a very sorry and unfortunate, unintelligent observation. What we know is that there is a common program which is contained in the Progressive Charter, which unites the Progressive Caucus in Parliament. And in our own internal discussions as Mkhonto Wesizwe, we took time to characterize all political formations in South Africa. And we then said our characterization of, for instance, the ANC is that despite it having been captured by the white capitalist establishment, it doesn't become an enemy force. It becomes a strategic opponent which is contested. That is our characterization of the ANC. And then we said the EFF is not even an opponent. We said it's a potential strategic ally, because it more or less espouses in its foundational documents and perspectives, it espouses more or less the same values that Mkhonto Wesizwe espouses. ATM is our strategic ally, and we then categorize the Democratic Alliance as part of the enemy camp. What maybe could help in terms of this politics of South Africa is that let's rise above subjectivity and deal with proper ideological and political characterizations of just what is the environment that we're in and how do we relate with the different political forces. But the childishness and subjectivity will undermine otherwise a necessary cause for the unification of all progressive forces, not just in Parliament, but on the ground. There's no need that if Mkhonto Wesizwe, EFF, ATM identify that their service delivery challenges in the municipalities of Alfred Nzo, of Matatiela, Mzumvumbu, Ntabamkulu, Winematikizela Mandela municipality, we must then organize separate matches to deal with issues of service delivery. We must do that jointly to say that these are the issues that we are raising. And it's not about dissolution of any party, it's about unification of the strategic objectives of just that, what we seek to achieve collectively on behalf of the people of South Africa.